sometimes we're like, shoot, we could be going out. It's a Thursday night, but we have to sit in student government for hours and hours and talk about Israel-Palestine when half the room doesn't care. But like, we have to defend our right to be a student on campus.
Welcome to What Came After. I'm your host, Manya Marcus. On What Came After, we'll take a look at the many ways people's lives have changed since the brutal massacre in Israel on October 7th, 2023. We'll be speaking to people around the world to learn how this profound moment in Jewish and global history continues to shift, shape, and change them. To learn more, please visit us at whatcameafter.com. I am honored and delighted to be sitting here at my kitchen table just outside Chicago with you, Kelly Shapiro. It is July 17th, 2025. I try to state the date because history is moving at such an alarming rate, Jewish history. Kelly, I would love for you to tell us who you are and what you've been up to these past 2 years almost.
Hi, I'm Kelly Shapiro. I'm a student studying engineering at Rutgers University in New Jersey. I'm also the president of Students Supporting Israel, SSI, at Rutgers, also as well as the co-founder. So I've been doing a lot in the past 2 years since October 7th with my club as well as student government. It's been a crazy ride.
I can imagine. You started this club, if I'm not mistaken, after October 7th.
Yes.
Did you have any involvement in student government or civic student life prior to that?
Not in college. In high school, I was involved in student government and I was in the Israel board. I went to a Jewish private school my whole life, grew up in a modern Orthodox home. So after October 7th, I was asked to go on a trip with MTF. MTF is Maccabi Task Force. They're an amazing organization. They mainly focus on sending non-Jewish students to Israel on different trips. So they sometimes call it perspectives or fact finders. So they were trying to get a trip started. So actually after October 7th, they were like, we're just going to send mainly Jewish students and we're going to take them to see what happened. So sometime in January 2024, I went to Israel. We were one of the first cohorts of people to see basically everything down there. We went to the Nova site. When you think of the Nova site now, you can imagine all the flowers and all the Israeli flags, all the beautiful plaques and things.
Memorials, memorials, yeah.
Just beautiful. When we went there, we had to wear a vest and a helmet, all of us. And it was just sticks in the ground with people's faces. And each stick had a different face on the back. And it was bleak. Like we stepped outside of the bus. We were like, ooh, this is eerie. We were physically feeling the booms because there was a war going on. Literally shaking to their core. So
only a few kilometers from the site.
Yeah. So it was really crazy going there. Obviously, the people who I was on the trip with, traumatic bonding for life. But we went to Kfar Aza, a tour from one of the people who survived. And he told us the story. He took us on a walk. It was unreal. It was like, right now I have full body chills thinking about that experience. That happened over my winter break. So October 7th happened. You know, my community at Rutgers, we were really caught off guard. It was the 7th and then the 9th, Rutgers was able to put together a small vigil. And then 2 days later, not even, there's a protest in the same place where we had our vigil. That winter, I went to the trip with MTF. And then at the end of the trip, obviously there's a lot of group discussions with these like 30 students on this trip, different leaders. And everyone was talking to each other about like their student Israel group. And I was thinking like, Rutgers doesn't really have Israel club on my campus. I have the Chabad, like pretty active. I'm going Friday nights.
And just for people who don't know, Chabad is a religious center. I mean, it's for religious life, cultural life.
Yeah.
But primarily it's there so that people who are observant can maintain observance when they're at college.
Absolutely, yeah. And we figured out, I was at this trip, obviously, with these other students, and they were talking about, okay, now after this trip, seeing what they're doing, what they're going to do with their Israel club. I was like, shoot, like I got to make an Israel club. Like what's going on? Like I have to get back to campus and do this. So that's exactly what I did. It turns out that a boy on my campus just switched from YU, from Yeshiva University. He ended up like finding out that I just did on this trip. And I'm like kind of speaking about like, you know, starting more things. Came over to me and he's like, let's start a club. I can't believe there's no pro-Israel club where Rutgers, we're supposed to be one of the biggest Jewish communities. You know, that's one of the reasons I went to Rutgers from a Jewish school, from taking my gap year in Israel. I knew that there was a huge Jewish community. So we tried starting doing it. But because of like the rules, you couldn't start a club in the middle of the semester. So we had to wait until the following year to start our club. So the Chabad at Rutgers, Rabbi Baruch Goodman, the best guy, out of the Chabad, we started Students Supporting Israel. So it turns out like after starting this club, me and my co-president, Michael, were in all this internal politics. We were like, okay, we just want a club where students can talk and figure out what's going on and talk about Israel. Like there are a lot of emotions are building up and we want it to come from us. Like it's not as meaningful as if, a rabbi puts together whatever event, like we want to do it. So we started the club even before we were like actually allowed to have the club through Chabad. And it was just from there, like everything kind of fell into place and we have like meetings and there's hundreds of students getting involved. Our big marches have about like 500 students and I'd say about 40 students every other week for our meetings.
For your meetings. That's really remarkable. So it sounds like you were galvanized pretty quickly after October 7th. I'm wondering if your parents had fear about you going on this trip so close to October 7th, being in Israel, being so close to the sounds of war.
So my parents were really supportive the entire time, which was I'm so thankful for both of them for that. Obviously, they're my parents, they want me to stay safe, but at the same time, they understood like this is an amazing opportunity for me and they want me to go. And if I'm able to go and I'm willing, and obviously I was going to see horrible things. We spoke to Zaka.
Yeah, Zaka is an organization that focuses on the sanctity of burial in Jewish life. And so they make it their goal to collect every part of the human body, as many remains as possible, in order to give a dignified burial. They've been in natural disasters. And as I understand it, this was one of their biggest challenges to date.
So just hearing that Zaka representative talk about what he had to go through. Every person we spoke to really wanted to get their story out. When we got to the Nova site, a random like farmer came up to us. He saw we were like recording. The idea of the trip was, come and take a video, show people back on your campus what happened. In broken English, a guy comes over to us and says, please, like, tell our stories. They don't believe us.
I think you're speaking to this, and it's something that I've noticed. Israelis are very quick to understand the importance of speaking about a trauma, and they have a very keen sense of the importance of documenting it because the role that doubt can play in breeding violence against Jews and antisemitism is so powerful. So they are always trying to get ahead of the possibility that people will deny or forget. Now, this season, we're focusing on the fears that American Jews are having. And I'm wondering if you felt any trepidation, any fear, any anxiety coming into this interview and expressing a lot of the challenges that you've had in the last 18 months.
Yeah, so personally, I don't have any fear. I have a very thick skin, and what I've gone through the past 2 years has even made it thicker, I'd say. What my club is trying to focus on and what my main goal is to instill confidence in the other Jews on my campus and the other pro-Israel, Zionist students on my campus. If they've been to Israel or if they have family in Israel, they know more than, any of those protesters they're seeing or anybody online that they're seeing. So I think just instilling that confidence in people is the goal. You've been to Israel, you know what you're talking about, right? And I think there's a disconnect of people kind of, I don't know if I'm going to know what to talk about. I don't know all the history. And what if they ask me something that I don't have the answer to? But, I'm an engineering student. I'm not going to have all the answers and I'm not expected to have all the answers, but I'm able to sit down and have a conversation, even if it's tough, with the confidence that I've been to Israel multiple times and I do know what it's like. And I have family and I have friends in the IDF.
You lived there for a year.
I lived there for a year. I know what I'm talking about. And somebody maybe can come up to me and be aggressive. They always say like the 80-20 rule, we're the 10%. Nobody can come up to me and switch my opinion about Israel. And I love Israel within my blood. Like no conversation can really sway my opinion. So the same 10% is on the other side. No conversation is going to sway that other 10%. So the focus is on the 80% in the middle. The people who have no skin in the game, have no real, necessarily any knowledge about the situation to kind of say like, hey, this is how I see it. In the past few months, I've had conversations with people, Muslim people, like a boy. Basically, we had an altercation, kind of not cyberbullying, but, not so respectful in like the group chats for student government. And we ended up having like, 3-hour-long conversation of just like back and forth. And like, yeah, there was a lot of animosity in our conversation. But at the end of it, we were able to come out and be like, okay, we're still students here and we could still have conversations about other things. And it just so happens we were also both engineers, and he's from Egypt and very passionate. And I'm obviously very passionate coming from where I'm from. So just that we were able to like come together and find the middle ground and have those conversations. But I also think the average Jewish person or an average student on my campus isn't going to have that opportunity to really speak to that student government guy who's really aggressive on the chat. I put myself out really on the front lines, you could say. As the president, I'm really the face. People on campus really know like, oh, that's the Israel girl. And I do that on purpose. But a regular student, maybe their professor says something that kind of sits with them the wrong way, or in a group project, something is said, sits them the wrong way. Like they're nervous. They don't want to speak up. But speak up. What's there to lose? Most people are in that 80% in the middle who have no idea anyway, whether you're right or wrong, but they're happy to like hear you out. So I think that is my main goal for my club as well, Students Supporting Israel, to have those students who, so similar to me, also went to modern Orthodox schooling their whole lives, and yet they find themselves in these secular scenarios where they aren't able to grapple and they aren't able to like find the confidence to speak up, even though they totally know about what they're speaking on.
Do you ever feel any resentment that this crisis, this horrifying moment in history, has pivoted you from being a little bit more carefree in your campus experience to now having a drive, something I'm sure that you think about every day? I mean, you are glowing right now. You're talking about this. It's clearly a point of passion and pride. But I can also imagine that there would be some negative feelings associated with who you were on October 6th, enjoying a holiday, and what happened in the next day.
I mean, right. Like it's always like what Mordechai said to Esther, like if you don't, someone else will. So I definitely feel like it's my civic duty, but at the same time, like I'm not doing it alone. I have amazing friends and amazing, not the biggest group of people who are all rah rah like I am, but those few people who are really doing it with me in student government with me. Yeah, we talk about all the time how there's so much burnout and how I just want to focus on my engineering classes and I just want to get through school and not have to worry about this. But at the same time, like you can clearly tell I do have a lot of joy from this. So it's really a big passion of mine. And it's unfortunate because I feel that like some of my hobbies I'm taking away from. So for example, I'm also to be the president of Gift of Life on my campus. So I do that on my spare time, but this upcoming year, I'm stepping down from my president role. I can't stay involved as much because of my student government role and because of my presidency with the Israel Advocacy. But, I'm really happy and proud of what me and, my select friends have done just for the Rutgers community and just in general, all the things that we've accomplished. Obviously, it's bittersweet. Like sometimes we're like, shoot, like we could be going out, like it's a Thursday night, but we have to sit in student government for hours and hours and talk about Israel, Palestine when half the room doesn't care. But like we have to defend our right to be a student on campus. We just actually, me and I call her my sidekick, Taylor, we just tried to put forward a resolution and we labeled it a bill to counteract antisemitism, antizionism, and anti-Israeli racism. And this was kind of leading after like a harsh, basically a year that we had on campus. And we wrote a beautiful bill, 4 pages long, laid out so clearly. Like if you didn't know what Zionism is, you could read it and understand very blanket statements of what happened to specific students, what happened to the general campus community, and what happened in other campuses, and why our student government should take action. And me and Taylor spent hours writing this legislation for nothing because they didn't pass it. And months prior, we did pass a bill that was forward. Anti-Palestinian racism was passed. So that double standard of we were trying to get this thing passed. We have the Palestinian one already. Anytime we bring up anti-Semitism, it has to be also Islamophobia.
Paired with Islamophobia.
Every time. So we actually just, back in April, the Hillel hosted a senator, and there were horrible protests outside. And the police said to the protesters, like, this is your first warning. It ended up being that 4 students were arrested. The student government came forward and had nothing to say about the safety of Jewish students, just had something to say about how those 4 students were wrongfully arrested. What? The double standard that we face within my student government is so outrageous.
I want to pause you for a second.
Yeah.
And I want to take you back to a reference. You talked about Esther and Mordechai, and not all of our listeners are Jewish, and certainly not all of them are observant or know what you're referring to. So I want you to tell me what text you're referring to. And I have a couple more questions.
Sure. So in Judaism, there's a a holiday Purim, one of the things we do is we read the book of Esther. So in the book, the Jews are getting persecuted, and Esther's in a situation where she is married to the king at the time, and the king just sent a decree to kill all the Jews. And her uncle, Esther's uncle, came over to Esther and said, hey, like this decree came out, you're a Jewish person and you're married to the king. You need to go over to the king and say, hey, I'm Jewish and you just made that decree to kill all my people. Do you want me dead too? And, obviously she's nervous. She doesn't want to go in front of the king. The king didn't call her up, but I don't actually know the exact line, but the gist of it is that her uncle said, if you don't, someone else will. Like your name, it doesn't matter. Like God's going to take care of it, whether you want to step in and be the person to, go in front of the king. Someone else is going to do it. So if you want to be remembered, then it's your time to do it now.
Now that you've explained that, let me take you back to something you said a moment ago, which was that you and Taylor and a few other people wrote this beautiful 4-page bill, which really laid what Zionism is bare, right? And you said it was for nothing because it wasn't passed. And I'm going to ask you, if you really feel that way, I hear the frustration, I hear the sense of futility, but is there any part of you that believes that just doing these exercises of refining your understanding and clarifying in the midst of so much noise, we'll talk about the noise on campus in a second, that there's a virtue or purpose for that, even if the legislation itself fails, even if the double standard becomes so apparent?
Yes, definitely. I even say the students who were able to read, if they really spent the time to read it, it was already a step in the right direction. Definitely having it up, even, on the docket of the day was huge. They're always trying to avoid whatever I'm doing.
Right.
But yeah, yes, you're right. It's definitely not for naught, but right. The idea is to instill confidence and to show people that the students on my campus, the Jewish students, the Zionist students, there are people here. Hey, you're not alone.
You talk a lot about the intensity of the protests, there being a lot of noise on campus. And I think that you're saying that it created a difficult learning environment and a level of tension that was difficult to kind of focus through as a student. Can you speak to how it has impacted your learning, your ability to sit and to learn, and whether or not you perceive these protests to only be detrimental to Jewish students, or if you think they create an atmosphere on campus that makes learning harder for everyone?
I'm so happy you asked that. So the encampments that we had on our campus lasted a few days. And the last day of the encampments, the president of my school sent out a mass email and said, if you're still there by 4:00, you're going to get arrested. So they were in a very central part on campus. Finals were scheduled that morning. That first set of finals were canceled. So anybody who was already preparing the night before for their final, all that extra anxiety, waking up that morning and saying, your final is canceled or postponed now to a different date, that added stress for everyone across the board was so ridiculous. There were spray paint vandalism. It said Free Palestine, a woman holding a gun, like some stencil, like on the floor of the bus stop. Insane. Anybody walking around, Jew, non-Jew, that's going to have some effect. I'd say even for me, like there's stickers put up that says Free Palestine, or there's actual graffiti, right, of somebody holding a gun. Like it just like kind of stops you in your tracks. I'm like, who's going around my campus and spraying on the buildings and on the bus stops a woman with a gun that says Free Palestine? Who is this helping? This is just to intimidate the Jewish students, and it's just to bother everyone else.
Right. The reason that I'm really emphasizing this is because we did an interview in Italy where we spoke with members of Jewish student government who said that there was a lawsuit that was brought against the encampments because the same issue. Finals were canceled. It meant that learning was disrupted. And I think that it's important to broaden the scope on this, understand that these are delicate learning environments. And when they're disrupted in this intensive a way for this long, it's really not only Jewish students, probably Jewish students feel the very brunt of it, but it's not only Jewish students who are jarred.
Totally. So probably the middle of when like the whole BDS kind of came to my campus. So BDS is boycott, divestment, sanction. It's kind of the tactic to, demonize Israel. And
so the idea is to boycott Israeli companies' products, divest from companies' products, and sanction anything that comes here, right?
Yes. So this was all before I had joined student government. After this all came out, I was like, I need to join student government. They're doing stuff that's not good for my community. Like somebody needs to be there in the room when it's happening because this is affecting us in a way that we really didn't think it was going to be able to. But after this whole BDS thing happened, or while the votes were still kind of coming in for like, do we want to divest in Israel? Which, by the way, BDS is completely illegal in New Jersey. In the state of New Jersey, you're literally not allowed to divest from Israel.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So
wait. Let's pause here because I want to make sure that this is understood.
Mm-hmm.
At what point was there a bill to pursue BDS within Rutgers?
Very soon after October 7th, and it was before the encampments. It was kind of like their build up, like, oh, let's see how many people would vote for us. And once they voted for them, then they were able to kind of galvanize and create the big camps.
I want to describe this scene a little bit. Rutgers has this reputation of being a very robust Jewish community and particularly friendly to the kind of Jews who keep kosher, they keep Shabbat, etc. Now, with that background in mind, this kind of explains why it was so shocking for a lot of people who are outside this sphere that BDS was not just proposed, not just passed in government, but the sheer number. Can you share with us who the voters were and how many thousands of votes were in each camp?
Yeah, so the student government came forward with 2 questions for the entire student body, and the only way that it would be valid if 10% of the student body actually voted on it. So I think there's about like 40,000 students on campus.
So it was required around 4,000 people needed to vote, and then the results would hold campus-wide. Okay.
Yes, I'll read you the questions. Both of them were overwhelming yes. So question 1, should Rutgers, a state university of New Jersey, divest its endowment fund from companies and organizations that profit from, engage, or contribute to the government of Israel's human rights violations? Yes was 6,500 votes. No was 1,500 votes. The second question is, should Rutgers, the State University of New Jersey, terminate its partnership with Tel Aviv University, including the New Jersey Innovation and Technology Hub? Yes, 6,200 votes. No, 1,700 votes. Roughly, I obviously didn't give the exact numbers, but...
Let's stop there for a second. So this is a conversation not just about stopping certain financial relationships, endowments, etc. This is now, people cannot learn. Tel Aviv University is a world-class research university. Now, decision has been made by roughly 10,000 that this relationship, this academic relationship can no longer exist. Okay.
Right. It just so happens, I think Tel Aviv University and Rutgers are doing some insane research with like Alzheimer's or something really amazing. And everyone's voting, no, we don't want that. It's all illegal in New Jersey. This all happened before I started student supporting Israel, before I started the club. I just so happened I was a Israel fellow for a different Jewish organization at the time. And we got together and they were like, okay, Kelly, we have to lead the Vote No campaign. So we tried our best. Everybody in the Jewish community knew to vote no, knew when, knew how to vote, and et cetera, et cetera. We got all of our non-Jewish friends, but we were obviously not able to get the numbers we were hoping for.
There's a lot about this that's shocking. But one of the things that it really makes me think about is how much of a statistical minority Jews are everywhere. Because we think of Rutgers as a quote-unquote Jewish university, you are still absolutely, positively, wildly outnumbered by non-Jews. When you think about, we didn't prevail, the bill didn't pass, do you feel discouraged?
Yeah, all the time. Literally going back to campus even now, it's like, shoot, what do I want to do this for my last year on campus? All the stress, all the times that I'm not able to go out. I just want to be a regular student. I just want to become an engineer. If anyone's interested in environmental engineering.
See Kelly after.
Yeah, email me. There are doubts all the times. And my roommates look at me after coming back from a meeting at 11 o'clock at night, 12 o'clock at night. All of a sudden now I have to study for my exam tomorrow. There's a million things and there's every day there's something new that it's like, shoot, I don't want to do this anymore. But at the same time, I'm so proud of what I've built and where we've gotten so far and how far we've come that stopping now is a chaval. It would be a shame.
So as you're describing this vote and this idea to terminate these academic relationships, et cetera, I think that I experienced a little bit of a jolt. But some of the things that you've shared with me that you've experienced on campus since October 7th sound genuinely frightening.
Yeah.
Can you bring me to a few of those moments, explain what was said or what was done, so we have a sense of the scope of what's happening on campus?
Definitely, yeah. So like I said, the president of our school announced on all these camps, anybody who's at this area, if you're still camping out, you're going to get arrested. So until then, I was kind of avoiding the area. My classes weren't really in that area anyway. But I was there for the ending when he sent the email, you're going to get arrested. I was like, okay, let's see. Are they really going to get arrested? This email was just sent out. My curiosity got the best of me. So I remember I was sitting with my friend she was actually an IDF soldier at the time, but obviously she wasn't walking on campus when all the encampments were going on being like, I'm an IDF soldier. She was obviously not going to be doing that.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember we were kind of just in front of a tree, probably about 10 feet away from like this girl and like a group of her friends. They were all standing. She was wrapped in a keffiyeh and her friends were also. And I remember sitting there, and I didn't know this at the time, but another friend of mine was behind us holding an Israeli flag. So it looked like I was just sitting in front of the Israeli flag when really in my head, I was just like sitting next to a tree. And this girl started provoking us because we were sitting in front of the Israeli flag. And she flat out said to us, Hitler would have loved you. We got up and walked away. Like, we're not going to have this girl, She was calling us, you're a Nazi, you're Nazis. Hitler would have loved you. She wasn't saying Hitler would have loved me and wanted to kill me. She was saying, you're equivalent to a Nazi. Hitler would have loved you.
How quickly did that compute for you? That's what she was saying. That she was saying Hitler would have loved you as a fellow Nazi.
Yeah, almost immediately. That's like their classic on my campus, and I'm assuming all over the nation. That's the classic thing. They're calling Israelis and Jews Nazis, that we're doing the genocide, we're the Nazis. So I ended up submitting a bias report. My friend had a video of it. I sent the report. And because of my position in school that summer, the dean of the school emailed me. We ended up meeting on Zoom, and she said a police report was started, and they found out that that girl that said that to you, she's not a student. So there's nothing we can do. I said, what? Non-students are coming onto campus, harassing students, and there's nothing you can do. I was furious at her. She was like, this summer we're trying to work on something that can happen, yada, yada. It turns out they can just go onto my campus because it's a public school, and there's nothing that, the police officers can do because it's a public area. And, anybody can be chanting about Gaza and genocide, or anybody even can be chanting against LGBTQ plus community and harassing students. And, there's nothing we can do. I said, I'm confused. Why did you want to meet with me? Like, why did you reach out to me and tell me all this if there was nothing we can do?
My guess would be that you were raised with a strong faith in academic institutions to uphold a lot of different values that you're not seeing upheld right now. And I think there's this idea that the grown-ups, right, you're 23, but still the grown-ups, the people, the deans, the people in charge will know what to do.
Yeah, and should be able to fix it, right?
And what you're describing is interesting because it's not only that the grown-ups at Rutgers dislike the pro-Israel community, though I'm sure there's plenty of that. I think it sounds like also people in leadership at the university who would want to find ways to protect you feel that there are none.
I think there's like a limbo of, I guess, everyone's stepping on eggshells, right? Like, what's freedom of speech? How do we protect our students? But wake up. I'm getting harassed on my campus and there's nothing to do. I know what you could do. You could kick her off the campus. Like, there's really no excuse.
And you're also coming across this kind of fear and intimidation in leadership, people in leadership who are just saying, I don't know what to do. Did they arrest people at 4:00?
Yeah, they did not. I was waiting for that. People were slowly packing up, and I went over to the police officers that were standing right there, and I said, excuse me, it's 4:00. I showed them my phone. I showed them the time, and they're like, yeah, we weren't really given orders to do anything. As long as they're moving out, it's fine. So me and my friend were like, we're getting out of here. We ended up like driving by again. I think around like 7:00, people were like still, in quotes, packing up enough, like time to get a move on with. But my hope for the future is that somebody within Rutgers, or obviously all over the nation, that people are going to wake up and see, okay, this is happening to our Jewish students on campus. We can't continue to go on like this. But right now, yeah, we're definitely alone, and it feels like that because it's blatantly in front of our faces.
This is a good opportunity to talk about the fact that your group, I believe, or maybe it was the Chabad, I'm not sure, brought a Muslim man. Well, he's no longer Muslim, but he was born in Gaza. People probably know him as the son of Hamas. Tell us about this speaker that you invited to Rutgers.
Okay, so Mossab Hassan Youssef, his father is one of the head people within Hamas. We were planning to have him at our Chabad, and protesters were really rallying so that this was not going to happen because within, the pro-Palestinian community, he's known as like a traitor, and he has a book. It's very interesting to hear his story, and it'd be very interesting for my community to hear him. And we were really excited to have him, but the day before he was meant to come, the rabbi said, like, this is too much. Like, the Chabad at my campus is also a dormitory for Jewish students. So for the safety of the students that live there within the Chabad, they were like, we're not having this. And we were planning to have him the day after our commemoration. So October 7th 2024, we had a really nice ceremony in exactly the same spot where they had their encampments. And at that same time, we hosted a speaker there, and girls also were coming with their keffiyehs and interrupting this IDF soldier. Like, he was on crutches, like literally, who got hurt in Gaza. And he was speaking to us at our like commemoration. And we were being disturbed. And then the next day, we were planning to have the son of Hamas come and speak, across the street from the Chabad. There's a huge protest now. And it was just like defeat. Like, we weren't able to have the speaker because a safety concern. And obviously, like, we're not going to put the students who are living at Chabad at a risk. They're obviously more important than having some speaker come. And then it felt like a loss because he couldn't actually come. And then they felt that it was a win on like, oh, our protests won. We were able to not have him come in. Following that, my club, so Students Supporting Israel, we were condemned by my own student government. So I'm sitting on the executive board of the student government who condemned my own club. Everybody knows that I'm the president of the Israel Club on campus, and everybody knows that I'm on the executive board of this student government. All of a sudden, they passed this thing condemning my club for just inviting him. He didn't come, but they condemned my club for the invitation of Mossab Hassan Youssef and said that it was Islamophobic, that we even invited him. And to this day, I get online bullying because we invited him and all this. And
what was the substance of the argument that you should be condemned for inviting somebody who was born in Gaza? He's the son of one of the founders, as I understand it, of Hamas. What was the language that they used to condemn you for issuing the invitation?
Yeah, so I'm not just going to sit here and back everything that man has said. I'm not going to agree with all of that. But his perspective we found was so important, regardless of maybe things that he has said. But because he has said Islamophobic things in the past, in turn, inviting him or even listening to him is Islamophobic. So that was like the entire bill that they kind of wrote to condemn my club was like the quotes of him saying grossly Islamophobic things. And like my whole thing is that I'm not Islamophobic. Like, I'm trying to stop antisemitism. Like, they're separate and everyone is trying to put them in the same group. Like, we could talk about hate for Jews and we could talk about hate for Muslims, and it's different. And I have Muslim friends and I'm happy to say that I do. I love them and we could talk about all of our similarities and our differences. But at the same time, like, first of all, this condemnation was the first time that my student government has ever condemned any of their own clubs. So all of a sudden, I'm coming out to condemn my own club. That did not make any sense. And like, for what? We didn't even host him. Like, it was condemning the invitation.
I can't imagine that in the history of student government at Rutgers University, there was never a controversial speaker who was invited, who may have said things that the inviting body didn't agree with, or whether that was even the point to explore the controversy.
So when we were having this conversation of, okay, should this pass, should it not pass? Literally, I brought that up. I brought up controversial people. I said, this so-and-so Republicans brought this person, so Democrats brought this person. And, people got up and kind of was just like, well, yeah, maybe we should condemn those people too. Oh, are we only talking about condemnation after the Jews have to get condemned? Oh, now we're going to start to do that? What are we opening a Pandora's box to condemn everybody? Like, one person says one thing, like now all of a sudden you can't hear any perspective. Like, yes, I understand he said something wrong. He shouldn't have said that. We're not going to rally behind him and say everything he's saying is amazing and true, but you have to hear out other people's perspectives. And if you don't like that, it shouldn't be the student government to say, we're condemning you. Like, in actuality, my club is still a club, just the same as it was the day before we were condemned. And we're still going forward just the same. It's just the double standard that I face within student government at Rutgers is that, yeah, you had that controversial person. He didn't even come, but we're still going to hit you on the head for it. You're still not able to continue. Your club did something bad. You're an Islamophobe. After all that happened, people were questioning me and questioning within these student government group chats. I'm like trying to defend, my friend who's getting cyberbullied. And they're saying, Kelly, who are you to talk about stopping hate? It's like, aren't you the one that invited the Islamophobe bigot to our campus?
And just to say this for like the 700th time, this is a man who was brought up in Gaza as a devout Muslim. He endured a lot of trauma. And I understand that some of the things that he has said are quite unacceptable. But how he came to these positions is worthy of understanding and hearing. And then I think the whole concept of higher education is that you're supposed to get provocations to develop critical thinking, right? Many of people who speak at campuses are provocative to some people. They challenge the opinions that we have in our childhood homes, and that's what allows growth.
That was my defense the entire time. I don't understand why people are pushing me down for just wanting to start a dialogue and wanting to start conversation.
Okay, and I probably do understand exactly why. There's anti-Semitism in the world, apparently. Surprise. Again, you're 23. When you were leaving for your year in Israel, when you were leaving for Rutgers, did you think of anti-Semitism as a thing of the past? How did you understand the role that anti-Semitism played in your world and the broader world?
Yeah. So we could start it's back to my sophomore year of high school. So in high school, I did this program called Student to Student. The idea was to bring Jewish students of all different denominations of Judaism. So there was a group of 4 of us. I was, representing the Orthodox group. There was, someone from Reform to conservative students. And we would go into public schools and we'd speak about Judaism. And it would be maybe after their Holocaust unit or after any of their history units. And we would go and we would give a presentation. We're Jewish and this is this. And, here's a Torah and a fake little Torah. And we would talk about Abraham and we would talk about all the things, monotheism, yada, yada. So before starting that, they had this orientation, you could say. And part of the orientation was a Stand With Us presentation.
Sorry, let's pause. What is Stand With Us?
Stand With Us is an advocating Zionist organization, you could say. They work closely with college students.
Right. So Stand With Us does education and advocacy pro-Israel.
Yeah. Essentially, a student from Stand With Us came to speak with us about talking to people about Judaism. And I raised my hand. I was like, I don't get it. Why do we need to talk about Israel? Aren't we just talking about Judaism? And my teacher at the time, Melissa Zafran, said, that's why we're here, because anti-Semitism is manifesting itself as anti-Zionism. And in front of a classroom, you're going to be asked questions about Israel and you need to know the answer and you need to know how to answer gracefully and respectfully. I was like, oh, shoot, you're right. So that click, sophomore year of high school, I was like, oh, if I'm so gung-ho about stopping anti-Semitism, I better get educated about what's going on in Israel right now and what happened in Israel within its history from the get-go. I better be swift so we could actually nip this anti-Semitism thing in the butt. So then I started getting in advocacy groups. Before college, going into college, I understood that people were not really interested in against Israel. And I understood that I need to be able to defend Israel because it's the Jewish state and Jews don't exist without Israel. And that kind of was my thing. So going into college, in my freshman dorm, I had the Israeli flag on my dorm. So I kind of was just on my wall. My door was always open. If somebody wanted to come and hang out, come and hang out. But my Israeli flag is going to be up on the wall. I'm going to maybe talk to you about my 12 years of Jewish schooling because that's all I know. So I knew maybe anti-Semitism would be coming. I would need to know about Israel. And freshman year of college, I would have intellectual conversations about Israel, but it never had any grounding. They were just kind of asking because I was talking about it. They didn't necessarily know anything about Israel in the first place, and they were maybe only curious because of me. But no, I didn't experience anti-Semitism before October 7th, how I have now. And I definitely didn't choose Rutgers in my head because I was like, oh, the anti-Semites, I need to
be where
stay
they
away.
are.
Yeah. I was choosing Rutgers because I knew I was coming from my gap year and I didn't know how religious I would fall. And I knew that I needed maybe that back structure of if I wanted to continue being, modern Orthodox, that I could have a community of people who do Shabbat and Kashrut and all of those things. That's why I chose Rutgers. I wasn't fishing out for the
looking for a
anti-Semites.
fight.
Yeah, but that's where I am now.
Do you feel safe? You are using your real name in this interview. Not everybody would be willing to. You are the face of the Israel Club at Rutgers. Do you ever fear for your physical safety?
So yes and no. I think of one time where I was kind of, maybe we got to get out of here. So at the time when BDS was kind of happening on my campus, the results still have not come out yet, but the president of student government was going to interview the president of my school. And this was super contentious because everybody wanted to divest. And all of a sudden, this town hall meeting with both presidents, the president of the student body and the president of the university, became this Israel-Palestine thing. So everybody was in the room was either a Jewish student or somebody rah-rah to free Palestine. So this huge thing came, and I remember them sitting down, each of them looking at each other, and they started asking questions. And the president of the student government was asking the president questions, and they were starting to talk about the environment and stuff that like the room did not care about. The room is clearly split, the Jewish
Oh,
students.
meaning the environment, like the actual climate environment.
Literally, yes.
Okay.
Like what the school is doing to improve their
environmental practices.
Yes, right. And none of us were interested in hearing that. All we wanted to hear was that. And the Jews were kind of just, all the pro-Palestinian people wanted to hear him say, we want to divest. And all the Jews were just there watching to see what he was going to say.
Mm-hmm.
So we're all sitting in that room, and then people are screaming out. They're in an interview. There is going to be a time for Q&A. People are screaming out, do the Q&A, do the Q&A. They're like, okay, we're going to switch to doing the Q&A. So they switch and they do the Q&A. Still more calling out, chanting. One more chance or that's it. President gets up, starts answering the first question. That's not what we mean, blah, blah, blah. The police are there, obviously, because this is like a huge contentious thing that we all have the opportunity to have a Q&A with the president of my school. The police escort him out of the side room. And then now we're all stuck.
The police escort the president of the university.
Correct, yes.
Because
out of the room.
Chanting is getting too intense.
Yes.
Okay.
All these Jewish students were standing in a room, and all of these pro-Palestinian protesters are screaming, all Zionists are racist, chanting one after another, all these stupid rhymes that I cannot get out of my head, right? From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. All these specific things to kind of turn the knife a little bit for all of us. And the event was over. Somebody got up, said, okay, thank you, we're leaving. And then he left. And now all of these Jewish students were all just sitting there. What are we supposed to do? All the police have left at this point. We're standing there. There's teachers who are standing around. They immediately start saying, all Zionists are racist. I stand up. I'm like, okay, we're not going to sit here anymore. I go over to a professor or some staff and I say, excuse me, I don't think the Jewish students here are going to be comfortable walking through that mob of people to get to the exit. She was like, I totally understand. Like, if you need anything, like, why don't you go out this way? So I got up. I like told, my roommate who was sitting next to was like, we're going to go now. And we ended up, I tried getting all of my Jewish peers, everybody around. And I said, okay, like if anybody wants to leave, we could leave. And at this point, my co-president, Michael, is right there. And he says, what are you talking about? We're not leaving. And Michael has even thicker skin than me. He's very Russian, Jewish, like tough. What are you talking about, Kelly? We're not going out of the side door. We're going to go right through this. I was like, Michael, relax. Not everybody wants to walk through. I don't want to walk through that mob of people who are shouting to kill us.
But Michael's point is that we're not going to be intimidated and shunted out some escape hatch.
Okay. Exactly. So at that point, I was like, I don't know. We ended up like standing there because me and Michael kind of had this, like, obviously we didn't agree. Yeah. So all of us kind of stood there for probably another 5 to 10 minutes of, again, these protesters just in this room, giant room, just chanting at nothing, at us. Finally, it was like, okay, we're not doing this anymore. I'm going to leave. And once I left, a lot of people, thank God, followed me.
Through the side door, Michael stayed?
Yes,
okay.
We left through the side door and Michael stayed. So that was like the one time that I could really think of where I was like, oh, whoa, like I'm not feeling safe right now.
And your adrenaline was probably very high.
Yes. So like to this day, I still think I'm unsafe there. I'd say like when I am on campus, I'm not visibly Jewish. I can tuck my necklace. I'm walking around in pants.
Meaning that if you were consistently in a skirt, people would suspect that you're part of the Orthodox community.
For example, my friend Taylor is consistently in a skirt and is completely targeted, like very blatantly.
Do you tuck your necklace in? You're wearing a Magen David right now.
No, I don't. A professor one time said to me, and he was like an old guy and he wore like a microphone for the lectures and he didn't turn off his microphone and he came over to me and he said, aren't you scared to wear that? And pointed to my Magen David. And I said, I like got a little strong. I said, should I be? To this old man, what are you saying that to me for? Should I be scared? He's like, well, you know what's going on now. And I was like, no, I'm not scared. But yes, there are definitely Jewish students on my campus who are mortified. And I am putting myself out. I say on the front lines, I'm sitting at a table on campus that says, I'm a Jew, come talk to me about Israel. So there are places that I'm putting myself in that do make me feel sometimes, but I have thick skin and I'm not actually ever scared. Like I know that I'm okay, but am I speaking for all the Jewish students at Rutgers? Absolutely not. I know my friend who wears a kippah, we call him an anti-Semite magnet. Like he gets spit on all the time. Like people are just horrible just because he's walking around with the yarmulke.
I want to ask you about emotional safety. I know you were overwhelmed with some feelings, even just going into this interview, wanting to make sure that you shared all these wild things that have happened since October 7th. Do you feel emotionally safe on campus? How has your mental health been since all of this began?
Thank you for asking. really, my mental health has not been good. I find myself, like I said before, sitting on Instagram, scrolling until my eyes are like tearing up, like until I'm crying on Instagram. I cannot get off. I'm on these, like, no matter what I'm doing, I do feel like the impending doom of whatever I do here, it's still horrible in Israel, or whatever I'm doing. So mentally, it's really a juggling game of, I'm really happy that I'm doing this. I'm really strong in how I feel, and I feel that I'm making an impact for my community and all of that. But at the same time, like, right, I just want to be an engineer. I just want to be a student. I don't want to have to deal with this. I don't want people to call me names or anything. But like I said before, if it's not me, someone else will, and I'm happy to be the person. So mentally, it's draining, and me and Taylor especially, we feel burnout all the time, like constantly. Like, I'm in a meeting for student government, I'm in a meeting for students supporting Israel, I'm in a meeting for my charity work I do. I'm constantly in meetings, and if I'm not in a meeting, I'm studying, and then there's no time for myself.
Has your academic performance suffered?
Yeah, unfortunately. Thank God, I still have a good GPA, especially considering I'm in engineering. But I did find this past semester and the semester before that I was taking my extracurriculars almost more seriously than my grades and my academics. I would find I'm, planning in a meeting for this one thing until super late. And then it's like, shoot, I have an exam the next day. I didn't start studying. I'm not sitting here saying that I failed any classes. Thank God I was able to get good marks in all my classes. But definitely the mental health of it and the weight of pressure from academically definitely suffered, especially since after October 7th, I remember just like sitting in my classes on the bus, just crying, thinking about like, oh my gosh, like life goes on. I can't stop. I'm in school. I have an exam or a quiz or whatever it is. And then added onto that, like every day there's more and more noise.
Do you think that you're going to stay in this country, or do you consider moving to Israel?
I don't have any plans to make Aliyah. I did live there for the year, and that year kind of showed me how much I love Israel from afar. I really enjoy my princess life in America, Amazon Prime.
I knew you were going to say Amazon, yes.
No, but it's not even just Amazon. I don't have tough enough skin to do it and to be in the Middle East. I'm super privileged that I can live in America. If one day we're not able to live in America, I'm so grateful that we have Israel. But thankfully, other people are doing and living in Israel so that I can live in America. I also want to recognize the importance of America and Israel's relationship and how somebody needs to be in America to do the Hasbara and to, advocate for Israel from the Jewish standpoint. And obviously I want to be an engineer, but I'm also happy to do that and to be that spokesperson if it does come down to it. The Israel-U.S. relationship is so important, and I don't plan to make Aliyah. No, I can't.
I want to thank you for spending this time with me. This was a really interesting and important interview. I think there are a lot of facets of campus life that people who aren't there are not understanding right now. So thank you for taking us inside it and for braving the unknowns of the interview sphere.
Thank you. Thank you so much for taking your time and interviewing and caring.
Of course. Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please rate, review, and subscribe to What Came After wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find us online at whatcameafter.com.
You gotta prove that you're strong enough. The things we can't understand, yeah, we think we know it all. Man plans, God laughs again, and we try to hear his call. And all we can do is hope we hear it right and keep living our lives. Like a tree, your roots run deep. When branches sway, put up a fight. You don't want to run away from all the things you want inside. And when you get that feeling that you want to run and hide, a tree, your roots run deep. When branches sway, put up a fight.